What? What? Okay, alright. Voice reveal for my whole 200 subscribers. What up? It's your boy, Lucy. Here to bring you something a little different than the rest of the content on this channel, and hopefully something you guys will be seeing a little more of in the future. I've always wanted to do an art commentary video, and this project seemed like the perfect candidate for it. Designing characters is one of my favorite things to do. I love playing with the shapes, colors, and details to imply a certain personality or feeling, and if I'm successful, the end result is just so gratifying. I love watching Jack from Subjectively's Fakemon design videos for his Mazza region, and honestly, he was such a huge source of inspiration for this video. So if you haven't checked out Subjectively yet, you really should. His designs are so unique and inspired, I can only hope to be half as good as he is someday. Character design is such a huge part of what makes both Warriors and Pokémon so enjoyable, and some Warriors fans have been playing with the idea of a crossover for ages. Some of you may even be familiar with Geckozilla's Warriors Pokémon type charts. Well, me and my dear friend Maythray took this idea and ran with it, creating a list of as many cats as we could think of and what their Pokémon types would be. Today, I'll be taking those concepts and designing 5 characters as though they were Pokémon. I plan to make this video into a series of sorts, so if you end up really enjoying this video, you should have plenty to look forward to. Alright, well, this intro's long enough already, so let's get into designing Ivypool, Dovewing, Lineblaze, Jayfeather, and Hollyleaf as Pokémon. So this would be my first attempt at ever designing any sort of Fakemon or emulating the Ken Sugimori art style in any way. So here I'm compiling a bunch of different references to draw from. I wanted to find a bunch of different cat-like or canine-like Pokemon so I could see what kinds of body types that I could try to copy. For Dovewing I chose Eevee. It seemed like an obvious choice. They both have that neck floof that most people like to draw her with, and they're small, cute, have big eyes, big ears, big tail. It seems like a perfect fit. My only issue with my Dovewing design is I think it looks a bit too much like the Eevee. I was just so focused on capturing that Ken Sugimori art style that it just seemed a bit too similar. In hindsight, to remedy the issue of the two looking a bit too similar, I probably could have posed Dovewing a little bit differently than Eevee. It would have helped a lot, actually. As for Dovewing's type, I decided to make her a fairy ghost type. I wanted each of the Prophecy 3 to have ghost as their second typing because of their connection with the dead and their reincarnation and all that. It just seemed right. Additionally, I wanted each of their designs to incorporate that ghosty wispy thing you'll be seeing on Dovewing's tail soon. And I wanted them to have the 3 stars in them too. One of the aspects of this design challenge was trying to keep the colors of the cats recognizable while also playing into the theming. So grayish pink it was. And combining ghost with the fairy typing made the gray in the palette feel more at home. To sort of bring that ghost theme in more, I tried to make Dovewing's eyes look more haunted by making them mostly white with a few colors in them. She looks as though she's staring off into space, which is honestly just perfect for her. Details like the curl on her forehead and the ghostly wings under her eyes pay homage to popular design conventions for her, in addition to also playing into the fairy type theming. I'm actually really happy with this design. It's the first one I made, and it's not the best, but I still really like it. So there you have it, Fairy Ghost type Dovewing. I'm really proud of how I rendered this one. It was my first time ever trying out the Ken Sugimori art style, and it's one of my best jobs, I think. I'm especially proud of the lighting on the neck floof. It looks just like Eevee's. As the video continues, you'll see me experimenting more with the different brushes I use to try to better replicate the Ken Sugimori art style. So Dovewing may end up looking just a little bit different than the rest of the designs I make in this video. Now on to Jayfeather. Alrighty, this one was a bit more of a toughie, but we'll get into that in just a second. I had a basic idea of what I wanted for Jayfeather. I knew for a fact that I wanted a big, giant third eye in the middle of his forehead. Because, you know, haha, he's blind. And also I thought it worked well with his psychic typing. Oh yeah, he's Psychic Ghost, by the way. I also thought that his stick would work excellently as some sort of magic staff. And so here I am, just trying to sketch it out, get a feel of what kind of pose I wanted. Originally I wanted to have him hunched over, kind of like, I don't know, he was just like hunched over and all floaty like that. I don't even know what that is, but I thought it looked cool in my head. But I just couldn't get it to work with the stick, and the magical staff was too good of an idea to pass up. So eventually, I flipped him upright, had him holding the stick with his tail sticking out like that, And it just kind of worked out that way. I used a different brush for line art this time around, and I kind of regret it. It didn't work quite as well as the other thin round brush that I was using, but I wanted a more sketchy style to make it look more handmade, like, you know, the Ken Sugimori style. But, you know, I'm not gonna redo the line art. Are you gonna do it? I'm not gonna do it. So I decided that the third eye wasn't enough, and I just needed to give him a whole bunch of eyes, like, just all over. I thought it was more visually interesting, but honestly, it might have just complicated the design more than it needed to be, and, you know, there's gonna be a theme of that happening with this one. Obviously, I gave him the wispies on his ears and tail. Okay, colors. I was coloring this over a very dark gray background, so it was kind of screwing up my perception of just how dark or desaturated the colors were. I think at one point, his lightest color was like kind of a brown. Girl, what was I even thinking? I don't know, I was drawing this in a really dark room and the colors were burning my eyes, so they all ended up being really desaturated for a while until I eventually went back and fixed it. So that's what we're seeing right now. But, you know, I changed his gray to blue, and his stripes to more of a purpley, and his ghosty, psychic-y aspects are more of a pinkish purple, which I think is a very nice color scheme, honestly. Ah, yes, the rendering of the eye. I don't know, man. For whatever reason, I just couldn't figure it out. I started resorting to my usual tendencies to use multiply and add and screen layers when I know those really don't get used in the Pokemon official art. And it didn't look good. I was putting the highlights in these weird places that obstructed, like, a lot of the patterns on the eye that made it look all hypno-y, and so it just looked like a weird mark on his forehead. You couldn't tell it was an eye. And I also had that weird dark patch under his second set of eyes, which just made it look like his actual eye when it wasn't. It was supposed to be a fur marking, but your eyes kept getting drawn to that spot, and that's not what I wanted. Your eyes supposed to get drawn to the big eye in the middle. I went over and fixed it all later, but whew, oh god, did it stay like this for a while. Even with all the trouble that this design gave me, I do actually like the way that it turned out. I think that it is visually interesting, and you can tell it's J-Feather. It's like a cool, alternate, like, it's just a cool version of J-Feather, alright? I like it. It's not the most Pokemon looking, but it's there. You can tell it's supposed to be a Pokemon, and you know what? That is good enough for me. This design is good enough. I made Lion Blaze a fighting ghost type, which is something we've never seen before in real Pokemon, so the only trick here was trying to figure out a base concept for him, but once I had it, I was really happy with it. I decided to make him a fighter who was killed in battle and came back from the dead to protect their loved ones. I think it's a really cool concept. Now that I had my concept, I had to do my best to visually communicate it, starting with the pose. One of my ideas was to have more of a, like, downward angle looking up at him to kind of signify that he's strong, but he's protecting you, you know? Ultimately, I just couldn't really get that concept to work, so I had to revert back to my original idea to have him facing toward the camera. And I think it was a good call. Like, how many upward angles do you see looking up at Pokemon in official art? Not a whole lot. So I really like this pose a lot better. I think it better emulates the Ken Sugimori art style. And I made him stick one of his hands back to make it look like he's holding someone behind him, to try to make sure I got that protector vibe from him, you know. I also really enjoy playing with the perspective here. You can see how I have one of his legs significantly more forward than the other, and his other leg is way in the back. I think that's really cool. It adds more dimension to the character. It looks really great, in my opinion. Here you can see me laying out my ideas to make sure I got the effect that I wanted. A detail I gave him to make him look more like a ghost type is I turned his bottom jaw into a skull. And his usual Lion Blaze neck floof I made into a ghost cloud with the stars in it. I imagine that after the three lost their powers, their ghost type would either go away completely and leave them as monotypes, or it would get replaced with something else. For Lion Blaze specifically, I imagine his ghost type getting replaced with either electric or fire. So I think the ghost cloud main would probably become like a fire main of sorts in the future. Giving his design bandages had a convenient double meaning here. While also being a common design convention for fighting types, it also signifies being wounded, and as this is an undead Pokemon, I wanted to really play up that idea that he was killed in battle, so I wanted to put bandages in as many places as I could get away with. Originally, I wanted his midsection to be fluff, but I replaced that with bandages because it's more of a vital area, and if there's bandages there, you might expect that he would be dead. And it looks good. It's alright. I also knew that I wanted his stripes to look like scars. So I gave him an X across his face, and I experimented with putting X's elsewhere. One detail I wish I kept was the X's you'll see appearing on his legs. I thought that was a nice detail. I'm not sure why I didn't go through with it. The line art on this one turned out a lot better than the last two I did. I think by this time I'm starting to find my footing with the Ken Sugimori art style. I'm getting more comfortable. I had the thicker line art on the outside, and I used thinner line art for the details on the inside, and I think it really helped. I also colored in the line art on some of the inside parts, which I think also helped a lot. He wasn't looking as Lion Blaze as I wanted him to, so I added some floof to his cheeks and the top of his head. It made him look more friendly instead of just a flaming skull who is probably gonna beat you up. I also gave him some extra cracks in his jaw skull. I wasn't quite sure how I was gonna get traditional Lion Blaze colors to fit into a ghost typing, but they did fit the fighting type quite well, so I didn't sweat it a whole lot. Until eventually, I put a purple overlay layer on it, and it just tied everything together so well. And here's the finished Ghost Fighting type Lion Blaze Pokemon design. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. I really like this one. It is one of my favorites, if not the favorite from this whole batch. This is probably the closest I got to actually emulating the Ken Sugimori art style, and look at him. He just looks so good. He really feels like a real Pokemon to me. On to Hollyleaf, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really know what to do. I knew that I wanted her to be a dark type to complete the fighting psychic dark trio between her and her siblings, but I also originally imagined her as a normal type, just because being, normal is an actual part of her story. But at the end of the day, a normal type all-black cat Pokemon is just a black cat. And that would be something I really struggled with. I wasn't sure what to add and how to make her look more visually interesting when all I had to work with was a black cat. I decided it would be a good idea to give her poison as her second typing, because death berries and all that. And so I tried to incorporate berries into her design a little bit, but it didn't quite work out. Same thing goes for various holly leaves scattered around. I had to constantly be reminding myself that this was a dark poison type, not a dark grass type, so I couldn't just be loading her up with leaves. But I did find a way to incorporate the poison typing by adding little poison barbs to the ends of her points on her fur. After I actually finished the thing, I got a better idea for a Hollyleaf poison type Pokemon, where she would have a little frill thing, kind of like what frilled lizards have, that would be made out of holly leaves. And when she sticks them up, it would spit poison at you. It was really cool. But then again, like I said, I had already finished this design and it was well received by the people I showed it to, so I decided just to put it out of my mind. I wanted her silhouette to reflect her personality as much as possible. I gave her a moon motif with her ears and on her chest, to serve as juxtaposition between her and her siblings' star motifs. I also had her sitting very straight and upright facing the camera. I wanted her to look kind of like a big dark shadow on a wall. I even did some experimenting with having her tail be huge and sticking up behind her like an even bigger shadow, but of course that would just get rid of my silhouette idea completely. So I decided to just have her tail sitting awkwardly at her side. At this point she was looking more like a regular cat than a Pokemon. I tried giving her stripes and a moon on her chest, as you can see, but that didn't really do much for it. Like I said, I had a better idea and I would pose it differently if I were to design it again. Ultimately this one didn't turn out the way I thought I would and I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I really want to redesign her more than anything, but here she is. It doesn't look bad, and it does look like Hollyleaf, but it doesn't look like a Pokemon to me. That's really the only issue I have with this design. It needs to look more like a Pokemon, which is kind of the whole point. Honestly, if you guys want me to, I'll do a video where I just redesigned this one. Like, she deserves better than this. It's IP pull time, and I think you guys are really gonna like this one. Originally, like Hollyleaf, I was gonna have her be part normal type, but like I said, that just didn't make much sense. When I first started, I tried to make her a fighting dark type, and it seemed like a natural fit, but I just couldn't get a third concept in there to make a Pokemon. At first I tried to make her a kind of spy like Inteleon, but it just didn't make much sense to have her standing upright while her sister was basically just a dog. But that really is the thing about fighting types. They kind of have to be standing on two legs because, what else are they going to use to punch? And then I got the idea to make her like a ninja instead of a spy like I was trying to do before. So I sketched out a little pose of her like landing. It looked so perfect to me. So I sketched it from a different angle because the initial pose didn't exactly look like something you'd see a Pokemon in. And oh my god, that was it. That was the pose. It was perfect. You couldn't see the other eye. She was all ready to fight and stuff. But I wanted to change something. While I was sketching, I drew her with a sword, and then it just dawned on me. She shouldn't be a fighting dark type. She should be a fighting steel type. It fits her so well. Not only that, but it was almost the opposite of Dovewing's type. fairy ghost. Fighting steel, fairy ghost. You see where I'm going? From there, the ideas just sort of took off. I gave her like this cleaver on her head, and then I was like, hey, wait, that can kind of look like edgy anime hair. And we all know how much of an edgy anime protagonist Ivypool is. I also incorporated her tabby stripes into these spikes on her back. She was just a spiky girl, and everything was coming up Ivypool. Ivypool, being the sleek and sharp steel type that she is, needed to look shiny. And I poured my heart and soul into getting that just right. This is another one of my favorite designs, right next to Lion Blaze. These two together just, it really embodies like what a Pokemon is, or how they just look the most like Pokemon. They win. And there you have it. There's all 5 designs. Overall, I'd say that this was a success. Who knows, maybe if this video manages to get more than like 600 views, I'll make another one. Would you guys like another one? I'll make another one. Sorry for getting all quiet and rambly in some parts of the video. I was recording that at like 4 in the morning. Don't ask me why, I just was. Also, I'm obviously very new to the whole art commentary thing, but maybe I'll get better at it, who knows. If you're one of my friends, you know I'm not a very expressive or cheerful person, so recording that intro and trying to have just the slightest amount of enthusiasm in my voice was it was a bit difficult. So, you know, I don't know. I hope it came out okay. I hope you guys liked the video. Maybe I'll see you for the next one. Bye bye!